Philip Douthett, the men's marriage mentor here. I help men renew their failing marriages while creating a meaningful legacy. And if that's what you're looking to do, then you're definitely going to want to take notes on today's video. And if you found this information that you're going to learn today to be valuable, be sure to share this video and click the like and subscribe button so that you get the notifications of other videos that I release. Before we get into the video, be sure to stick around to the end where I reveal the details on how you can join me in my free training that walks you through how to renew your failing marriage by doing the right things at the right time in the right order, even if your situation feels completely hopeless right now. So be sure to stick around to the end for that announcement. And just so you know what to expect here, this video that you're about to watch was a training that I did inside of my private group that is directly related to the title of today's video. So get ready to take notes, then apply what you learn so that you can get the results that you desire. So with no further delay, let's get to it. The training today it's about survival. And that's where I feel like a lot of guys are in. They're in this survival mode, this, the fight or flight mode in life and in marriage. And that mode actually can be impacted by your thyroid. And so that's where I have been recently. I'm cognitively aware of a lot of different things in life and the way that I think and the way that I act and the things that I say and etc. But something's been a little bit off. And so, yeah, I felt like I needed to do a little more research and find out exactly what's going on. And so with all that being said, I want you guys to understand something. And that's the fact that a majority of our thoughts and a majority of our feelings are connected to our sexuality, our guilt, our shame, our unworthiness, and our importance, in life to our family, especially to our legacy. And so the areas of our lives that have pretty much everything to do with survival, right? That's sexuality, guilt, shame, unworthiness, importance. Those all have to do with what? Survival. And that survival mode of life is what will eventually wear down. It breaks down the body, it breaks down the mind, which robs you of energy and makes you even more tired. It makes you more angry, makes you more bitter, makes you more resentful, and it makes you more fearful of your situation. And that's personally where I found myself going with what was going on in my life. And so in the short term, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you can deal with survival mode every once in a while for a short amount of time. And that's okay. And your body can return back to what's referred to as homeostasis. Okay. And homeostasis is where the body can actually restore itself. But in the long term, what happens is, being in survival mode, that fight or flight mode, it starts to do what? It starts to manifest itself into personality traits because you're not allowing space for growth and for repair simply because you're constantly living in that survival mode. All right. That's the fight or flight mode that I just mentioned earlier. And so I'm sure you've heard about that many times before, that fight or flight mode. The thing is, if you're living in anxiety and you're living in fear and you're looking at your life from the perspective of the worst case scenario, which is what happens when you're stuck in the fight or flight mode, there's no space and time for healing. So you're always viewing the world and your life from that worst case scenario, which doesn't allow your mind the ability to see opportunities for positive growth and advancement within yourself and within your life and within your marriage. Okay. And that's what happens in a person's life when they're always living in survival mode. It really breaks them down, right? And so those feelings and those thoughts of survival and fear and bitterness and resentment and anger and insecurity creates what? What does that create? In the physical sense, it creates in the body what are called neuropeptides. And those neuropeptides signal hormonal changes in the body, which quite literally means that you're taking your thoughts and you're storing them as energy, and that energy can be productive, it can be destructive, or it can be neutral. And that's where I was going with all of this personally, with everything that's going on with my thyroid, is neuropeptides are signaling different hormonal changes within my body. So what does that mean? All right, let's get into that. In my opinion, the neutral energy, which is simply stored energy that is not being used at all within your body, it can be just as harmful or adverse as destructive energy. And here's why. A much more, dare I say, sophisticated or mature individual has the introspective awareness and cognitive recognition to see the, dare I say, the uselessness of neutral and destructive thoughts. Okay? And therefore, if you have that introspective awareness, that cognitive recognition that I just mentioned, if you have that, the wherewithal to change your actions in a way to drive positive results becomes more of a need. Okay? So you see you recognize something's wrong. You see that there's something that needs to shift or change in your life. There's a difference between shift and change, by the way. But do you have the cognitive recognition, the awareness of that, or not? To further, hammer home my point here is the fact that the mindset drives behavior, and behavior drives results. Do you remember me? I recently did a training on, it was this book. I recently did a training on it where, put it back in my bookshelf, where I was talking about how behavior drives results and your mindset drives behavior. So, that there's a trail here. And I'm going to get into that here with Robert, who asked a question earlier. I'll address Robert's question, how this is perfectly in alignment with what I'm working on and what I'm. Your body and your mind are obviously intimately connected, right? And so your actions through both thought and physical movement have a direct impact on your emotions. And the emotions are what? What does that mean? Your emotions are then the end product of your actions. And so a less mature and a less aware individual, more inexperienced individuals have I dare say, the desire to argue that emotions drive their actions. That's a very immature perspective. And it's also the same lame excuse for passing the blame that you aren't taking control of your thoughts and therefore aren't taking control of your actions. Okay? And so basically, if you guys are in a situation where you're feeling the exact same every single day, you dread getting out of bed every single day, then literally, according to your own biological makeup, your own biological model, that means that nothing new is happening to you within your life. And because here's the thing, how many potential outcomes are there in any given event? An infinite number, right? An infinite number. Because here's the thing, there are some outcomes that, are obviously going to be more likely or have a higher probability of happening, but there are literally an infinite number of possible outcomes resulting from any given event. Like anything could happen right now to me. I could have a heart attack and be dead in the next 12 seconds. Who knows? Like anything could happen. My house could fall down. Technology could go out. My internet could go out. Anything could happen. Hell, I could get hit by a meteor through the window over here. Like anything could happen, right? But there's a higher probability of some things happening more so than others, right? But with any new experience, there should be some new emotions, some new thoughts, and some new feelings resulting from those new experiences. And hopefully those emotions are positive, they're elevated, they're beneficial, they're good for you, right? Because here's the thing, you cannot keep, expecting to get the same results by doing the same thing over and over. And no, that's not the definition of insanity. It is not. It's at least not in the psychological world. That's not the definition of insanity. You cannot keep doing the same thing every day, with the same biological makeup and expecting things to be different every single day. Am I saying that you need to do new things? To a certain extent, yes. But be aware, have the self-awareness. Are those new things healthy? Are they beneficial? Or are they destructive to you and your relationship? But like I said, living in those same familiar emotions every single day, day in and day out, it literally puts your body into a familiar physical state of being, because your body is literally what? Your body is your unconscious mind. So what does that mean? To prove that, look at your habits. And this is where I find so many men will fight me on this. They'll argue with me on this because they're stuck in their ways and they have every excuse that they can come up with to say, well, that's who I am, or that's the way I was raised. Well, guess what? You can decide right now to make any shift or change in your life that you want to. You can choose right now to stay who you are or decide to be someone or do something different. Right now. But I want you to look at your habits right now. There are habits and actions that you do that you do not have to consciously think about. Okay? You don't have to think about them in order to do them. So in a physical sense, we refer to this as what? Muscle memory, right? Muscle memory is where you can perform any action without having to think about it. All right? And the same is true with emotions, the same is true with feelings, and the same is true with character traits. And so those emotions, those feelings, those character traits, meaning what? What does that mean? They mean that the subconscious thought is the building process of emotions and character traits. That's what conscious thought is. I'm going to repeat that. Write this down. Conscious thought, being aware, having the self-awareness, that consciousness, those conscious thoughts are the building process of emotions and character traits. And so those neural pathways have, in a sense, been built during the conscious thought process. I want you to think about this. I'm going to use this analogy here. You begin to relive those same emotions. You begin to relive those same feelings and character traits day in and day out, because those neural pathways are the highway and the roads that those familiar emotions, in a sense, drive on, which makes them more permanent within your mind. Kind of like walking on a dirt path. And after you travel on this dirt path, multiple times, what happens? Well, the grass starts to die off, and the branches start to clear because you've chopped them down, and it becomes more of a road, right? So you walk on them more. You have the same thought process going down the same roads more frequently. It becomes more of a habit because you've been doing it so many times. Does that make sense? And so those heavily traveled thoughts, those heavily traveled emotions that you guys experience and you think about all the time, guess what? Those character traits, guess what? They become your habits because you spent so much time and conscious energy on them in order to form them. And you form them to the point where they are now familiar and predictable, which explains why creating new habits is so challenging, because creating new habits is going against what's familiar and what is predictable. And doing things that are unfamiliar and unpredictable, guess what? It's scary. It's a scary thing to do, just like change. And that's why I use the word shift instead of change, because change is scary. Change is unknown. That's what a lot of men do. They say, I need to change, or my wife says she needs to see the change. Well, it's not about change. Change is scary. It's unpredictable. It's unfamiliar. And it's actually something that subconsciously creates fear and doubt and insecurity in the mind of your wife. And so it is not about changing. It's about shifting. And I talk about this in great detail inside my program because it's not about saying, all right, I need to change. Because change, you know, let's say you're going to fall asleep. The next day you're going to wake up and you're going to be a changed man. That's scary to your wife because now she's like, this isn't the same husband that I knew for the last 20 years. It's not the same man that I knew. I don't know that husband anymore. I don't know that guy anymore. He's changed. I kind of like it. It's different, but it's scary because it's just not what I'm familiar with. It's unfamiliar. It's unpredictable. And it creates fear and insecurity in your wife's mind when you say that you want to change. Fuck change. It's not about changing. It's about shifting. And that shift is about creating new neural pathways within the mind that creates new habits. And it's something that not necessarily can be done overnight. And so my last point here that I want to be very clear on is the fact that those familiar habits, which, you know, run on those physical neural pathways I mentioned in your mind, or I should say within your brain, not your mind, but within your brain, the physical sense. They come out in the physical sense through the way that you move, the way that you act, the things you do, the words you say. Does that make sense? Gil says, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get my wife to allow me to go back home. There's no cheating, no abuse of any kind, no domestic violence. She had a lot of things go on with her at the same time, multiple things that put her in a depressed state, but also low self-esteem and is sad, and then anger at me. Holy shit, you wrote a whole paragraph. Let's see where he keeps going with this. She asked me to leave on February 13th, so I've been out of the house for a month, giving her space, and she needs to work through her situation. But how do I get her to let me come back home? That's the problem that I'm having. I can't figure out. Okay, basically where you're going is it's all about you wanting to get back into the home, Gil. Here's the thing. I am very confident in saying the fact that you should not go back home right now. And even if you did, it would actually make things worse because you don't have the mindset, you don't have the skills, you don't have the tools necessary to renew the relationship. So just getting back into the house, which is what you're saying, you want her to let you come back home, your words, not mine. If that were to happen, it would actually make things a hell of a lot worse. Do I agree with the fact that you should have left the house in the first place? No. But since you already did, going back home will actually create more resentment and bitterness and anger between you two. Because, like I said earlier in the training, you have those neural pathways and those habits that you've created over the years. And if you do anything different than what those neural pathways have been created within your life, right? They're unfamiliar then they're unpredictable. So if you do anything different, it becomes unfamiliar, it becomes unpredictable, and that is going to instill fear if you were to go back into the house and live with your wife, because now you're becoming someone and doing something that is very different, and that's change. And that's the change that you're going to bring back into the relationship, and it's going to create fear within your wife. Here's the thing. Be there for her. Listen to her. You're saying, I want to put together text messages and hopes, and like, fuck text messages. Like, can you find any other form of communication that completely removes emotion and removes the connotation behind the words more than text messaging? Text messaging is terrible. It really is. Like, you can have more emotion, more connotation behind your words in an email more so than text message. So you're looking for a text message. Like, that is such, you're going to hate me for saying this, but I don't really care. That is such an elementary way of thinking and such an elementary and low level way of communicating with your wife. Pick up your fucking phone, call her, talk to her, But I'm going to challenge you that you don't know what to say or when to say it or how to say it in a way that allows her to feel comfortable to open up to you. And when I say, I'm not even going to go down that road. I'm not even going to talk about opening up. That is a completely different conversation. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to stop myself right there. Basically, I'm going to say that she does not trust you to allow herself to open up to you. She doesn't trust you to want to discuss things with you. You're saying, I'm not sure what words I need to put together. Stop talking. Shut the fuck up. And listen more than you talk. There's a reason why we have one mouth and two ears. They say listen twice as much as you talk. I say bullshit. Why don't you listen 1,000 times more than you talk? Listen to your wife in an effort to understand her, not to respond to her. That is a great segue, a great bridge, if you will, that will help to shift the feelings and the emotions behind the current relationship there, Gil. Listen more than you talk. Stop looking for the words. Stop shooting her text messages on a phone. Such a low-level way of communicating. I promise you, your words are not what are important right now. It's your actions and your ability to listen. I just covered a lot of great information that will help you to renew both yourself and your marriage. And I hope that you put everything that you just learned into practice, because that's the only way that you're going to get results. But there is so much more that you can do, and I'm going to cover all of that in my free training that walks you through how to renew your marriage, even if your wife has told you that there's nothing that you can do to change her mind. So if you'd like to learn the specific strategies and methods that thousands of my clients have used and continue to use to renew their failing marriages and create a meaningful legacy, then click the link below, watch that free training, and then feel free to submit an application after that. Also, be sure to click the link to access my private Facebook group, where you can get support and connect and even learn from a community of men who are also struggling to keep their failing marriages together. And when you join, I'll even send you a free copy of my latest ebook. And if you like what you heard today and you want more content like this from me, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to comment below with any questions or tell me whatever it is that you found to be the most helpful. And like I mentioned before, click the link below for that free training that I mentioned earlier. I'm Douthett, the Men's Marriage Mentor, and I'll see you on the next video.